Do you like chaos? Do you like rolling dice? Have you ever wanted your commander games to be a little more random? Have you ever looked at one of your commander decks and thought, wouldn't this be great as a cube instead? Well, thanks to the ponies, the Galloping 2 Secret Lair, yes, that is a real sentence, there is a commander that might fit your need. Discord Lord of Disharmony is quite the interesting silver-bordered chimera that lets you embrace the chaos of rolling the dice across the entirety of the Magic multiverse. And while this is a non-commander legal silver-bordered card tied to a television show that I'm sorry to say I know little to nothing about, it is still a really sweet bit of card design for Commander. So it got me thinking, if I wanted to build a deck around Discord, how would I do it? Well, let's just say this stray thought led me down a rabbit hole that was hard to resist. What I thought would be just a simple task of slapping some lands into a commander deck and letting the randomness rule quickly became an exercise in deck design, game design, and maybe even alternate Magic formats. So let me first start by explaining what Discord does. In the Rakdos colors for 4 mana, you get yourself a flying 3/5 Chimera with one of the wildest rules decks we've seen in a while, even by silver-bordered standards. If Discord is in play, at the beginning of your end step, you randomly determine any non-land Magic card. Then, until the end of your next end step, you can cast a copy of that card using mana of any type to do so. Further, if you cast the spell this way and Discord is still in play, you copy this ability and do it all again. So as long as Discord is on the battlefield, every time you cast a random spell, you'll keep generating more random cards to cast. In practice, this means that whenever Discord triggers, you'll always have a random spell to cast by the end of your next turn, even if your commander gets removed. But if you have Discord in play when you do this, you'll get the opportunity to cast something else, but only until the end of your current turn. Simple enough, right? Just put this into play, then let Scryfall take the wheel until the end of the game. So how could we build this? Well, we could start by rule zeroing Discord as our commander, and then just building a commander deck of 99 basic lands split however you like between mountains and swamps. The colors don't really matter for anything other than casting your commander because of Discord's rules text, so you can just jam some basics, cast your commander, and start spinning the wheel. In fact, Scryfall even has a random button that you can click until you hit a non-land, or you can even filter out lands by using the following URL. Note that this can give you any card throughout Magic's history, including cards that would otherwise be banned in Commander. And this would honestly be pretty fun. You'd have tens of thousands of possible cards you could get, and you might even get to introduce some cards into the game that are rarely, if ever, seen. Have you ever wanted to cast a copy of Black Lotus or Ancestral Recall in Commander? How about 9099 World Champion? Well, you can, even if the chance is very slim. The card could be anything. Could even be a boat. If you wanted to only include cards that are actually legal in Commander and also filter out older lands, you can do that with Scryfall as well. And I'm guessing for most playgroups, this is probably the most palatable and format-aligned option for picking a random card for Discord. Scryfall even provides a way to host a button for your specialized random card search if you're so inclined, or simply just have an overwhelming need to click on things. Whatever it may be, I've provided links to all these custom URLs for you to use down in the description. Now this is all fine and good, but the more I thought about how I'd approach playing Discord, the more excited I got around this specific idea. And to illustrate why this idea is so compelling to me, let's take a quick second to talk about another Magic format, Cube. If you don't know, Cube is a popular specialized limited format where you draft cards out of booster packs. The difference between, say, a draft at your local FNM and a Cube draft is that the packs of cards are built from a specifically curated list of cards, typically referred to as a cube. Apparently, as legend and Mark Rosewater's blog would allegedly have it, the first cube was put in a literal cube. Whatever the reason for the name may be though, it has stuck and the concept has resonated through Magic fans across decades. And for me, the draw of Cube is that it's a curated environment. Do you want to play a limited set of all commons? How about limited archetypes with vintage power level cards? A set of only spells and lands? What about a cube focused around 100 Ornithopters? Yes, this is a real cube. It's sick. Between Magic Online events, online sharing of different cube lists, and yes, even a full-on convention dedicated to the format called CubeCon, the draw of Cube is pretty consistent across all its forms. Cube strikes this beautiful balance between limited and constructed Magic that I could make an entirely separate video on, but to me, the biggest pull of Cube comes again from curating an experience that you want to share with others. This core idea became the basis of my Discord commander deck. Before we get there though, let's talk about the actual deck, because in order to play this as a commander, I did have to build an actual commander deck. Like the example I gave earlier, the deck is mostly lands, but apart from the namesake commander itself, every single card in this deck is part of a legal Rakdos commander deck. In fact, if for whatever reason you wanted to play this deck with a different commander, even though I don't recommend it, here's a couple options for you. Now all the non-land cards are the easiest to talk about because there's only 3 of them and they share the same specific theme. They are Geode Golem, Campfire, and Netherborn Altar. Turns out when you put all your stock into having your commander in play to do the thing, you end up playing only lands and cards that get your commander back. We even have Command Beacon hiding out in the mana base as well. The rest of the deck is mostly basics with a smattering of specialized lands to push things forward and some simple dual lands to help cast the only color reliant card in our deck really, our commander. Yeah, there's Bojuka Bog and Pit of Offerings for a little bit of graveyard hate. There's also Crystal Vein and the Depletion lands for a bit of ramp, and even a Thorn Glaciers, in case we don't really have anything else to do. Oh, and thanks to Lord of the Rings and the addition of the Black Gate to the game, we technically can win with Maze's End. I don't think this will ever happen, but you have a game plan in case you end up with just some Rakdos mana symbols in your command zone. The rest of the mana base is just a mix of black and red duels, some of them good, some of them average, and some of them downright terrible. And this decision was intentional. I wanted to even the mana base of your real commander deck to have a little bit of RNG in it as well. But I know you're not here for this mediocre Rakdos Mage's End gimmick deck. You're here for the promise of living your best life by rolling dice. In the spirit of Cube, I decided to curate a separate 100 card supplement full of commander legal cards to play alongside this deck. So when playgroups allow, this is the complete pool of random cards the Discord generates from. How this works is really simple. I have 100 cards that I picked out and condensed, loaded into a spreadsheet, and every time Discord's ability triggers, you just roll a D100. This could be a physical die, an app, a website, whatever you want. Just use a source of sufficient randomization to give you a number between 1 and 100. Then, you simply reference the loot table, and that's the card you can cast in the given window. And I like this way of playing the deck for two reasons. One is that you can bring a physical box to the table and not have to deal with bringing up random Scryfall cards on your phone that then acts as a game piece as well, instead of just having physical cards to play with. Two is that this allows you to curate an experience for your playgroup by picking the specific cards and effects you have access to. If you want all burn spells, great. All creatures, check. All group slug and pure chaos effects. Sure, like Cube Draft, Discord allows you to share an experience that you curated with a table of EDH players, in a way that shares all the excitement and tension that comes from random effects. There's this sense of controlled chaos at play here that's actually really fun. It's something I leaned into when designing my cube of cards. So what did I cook here? First off, it's 100 cards for some really simple reasons. First is that it's the same size as a commander deck, so it's easy enough to bring along with you to a game night or an LGS. The second is that it being exactly 100 cards makes expressing percentages really easy. For example, if I have 40 creatures in my pool of cards, I know that 40% of the time when I trigger Discord, I'm gonna get a creature. This not only made designing the deck much more straightforward, but it unlocked this idea of loot tables. To me, one of the joys of a random roll is that you get given something unpredictable, but on a scale. Let's say we have 20 removal spells. So when we hit a removal spell, we are now kind of rolling on a d20 loot table to see what we get. Maybe your average roll is something solid like Infernal Grasp or Hero's Downfall. Maybe the Omega High roll is something like Deadly Rolling. If you hit a 1, what does a critical fail for a removal spell look like? Probably looks like Chaos Charm. What if you need to remove an enchantment and you only have one copy of Disenchant or Return to Dust to roll to? This is the amount of randomization design that makes this deck concept really compelling. Every time you trigger Discord, you know you're getting something that'll do something, but in the moments of tension where you really need that one thing to get you through that point in the game, you get to experience the highs and lows of variance in a way that's really enjoyable. It's the same with creatures. You've got a lot you could potentially hit, but some of them are stinkers like Cinderwall and Drooling Ogre, and sometimes they're bangers like Shouldred. This is the driving concept behind the deck design, and it was a thrilling exercise trying to craft a set of cards that would help me deliver an experience I thought was worth sharing. The other nice thing about a round number like 100 is that it not only broke up the categories into clean numbers for things like removal, but it also let me weigh outcomes generally at a higher level. Like roughly how often do I want to hit to be a creature? What about a ramp spell? A removal spell? A sweeper? What about a group hug or group slug effect? The nice thing is that as you play more with your pile, you'll be able to make these adjustments over time. Like a cube or even a regular commander deck, this list is a living entity that you can adjust over time. You can dial up or down different categories of effects you're after to better craft the experience you're looking to create. Here are the rough categories in my card pool and the percentage of the pool they occupy, but feel free to change these as much or as little as you like. If you want to see the full commander deck, the card pool, or the spreadsheet loot table, they're all linked below in the description for you to pore over. Generally, my approach to building this was to have a balanced mix of creatures, removal, and interesting game effects available to me. There's the same amount of group hug and group slug effects, for example, so you're just as likely to hit Furnace of Wrath or Descent into Avernus as you are Aladamri's Vineyard or Rites of Flourishing. There's even a single copy of Worldfire in case you need a very splashy, likely game-ending effect and happen to roll the 1 in 100. None of the cards in the available card pool are currently banned in Commander, although some of them do break the color identity of Discord, which realistically Discord would do naturally if you were randomly determining your hits. I also wanted to have access to some specific effects outside of black and red, although most of the card pool is just regular black and red stuff. One other note is that technically, if we were randomly determining every time what card we got from the pool, you're equally likely to hit each card, including cards you've already seen that game. While this is a perfectly fine way to play this deck, I much prefer sticking to the singleton nature of Commander and removing cards from the pool as you play them. This does slowly change the math of what hits you have available, so the percentages will shift as the game goes on, but it also seems like a much more fun experience and doesn't really change the overall design when it came to determining what card categories should be in what quantities. Now you may rightfully ask yourself, these cards are already all Commander legal. Why don't you just put them in a 5-color Commander deck and get basically the same experience? And I'd say fair, but not only do I think separating the mana from your pool of random cards makes a significant gameplay difference, but the real fun of the experience comes from the tension of drawing randomly from the set pool of cards. Like Cube, it's the knowing but not knowing blend of limited and constructed that make the format sing. This experience gets to emulate that in Commander with the addition of rolling quite a few proverbial dice. Now this is just scratching the surface of this idea using a fun Commander design that happened to align perfectly. You could build your own custom commanders with the same base ability to more fit your style. You could add rules for things like using an additional resource to save a spell instead of having them dissipate at your end step. You could potentially build a whole Commander subgame, taking this concept and exploring it deeper and deeper. And honestly, maybe someday I'll build out Elder RANDOM Highlander into a more standalone thing. But until then, this beautiful piece of card design that was attached to a somewhat silly, charity-driven Secret Life product sparked this idea and this entire video. I encourage you to take the concept and run it in your own playgroups. I think you'll be surprised just how fun it is to let a little randomness into your life. As the flavor text so nicely puts it, what fun is there in making sense? If you like this idea, tap that like and or subscribe button, but most importantly, get in the comment.
Get in the comments!
What would your card pools look like? What colors would you lean into? What changes or additions would you have? I look forward to reading everything you have to offer. Until next time, thanks for watching, and don't forget, you got this.